Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, Quick Match Gameplay. This time around we are on the map Cliff of Beasts, playing as the Wood Elves against the Greenskins. And so I wanted to try out something I haven't done in a long time, and that is of course a skirmish build with the Wood Elves. And this was one of the builds, or the troll builds, or sort of annoying mechanics that people really didn't like back in Warhammer 1 about them, that you could run up against. And I always thought it was pretty cool, always try to make it work, but haven't touched it in a long time. I've been playing Wood Elves in a very conventional manner, and figured that seeing this map, this fairly open map with good room to maneuver, I figured, hey, why not? I'll try it. And so here's my build. For the Lord, I did pick a Glady, of course, kind of the best Lord for this. She's very quick, of course, on her Eagle, 110 movement, and does have Prey of Anathrema as well as Reserve of Kurnus. Does cause fear and can kind of interfere if your opponent tries to stop you in melee. She does have decent melee stats, and so she can definitely help there. Alongside her, I did bring a Spellslinger of Beasts, and I did bring Flock of Doom to mess up big blobs, because that's one of the big problems for the Wood Elves with this sort of kiting build, is that it's very susceptible to just getting mobbed and overrun. She's of course on the Eagle, which gives her decent combat stats. I did bring Pan's Impenetrable Belt, actually more for the speed boost than for the physical resistance. And then I did bring Power Stone just to improve my Winds of Magic. And the Spellslinger of Beast is a really pretty potent sort of caster in this situation. She can help mess up blobs, and that's really what I was worried about, because I don't have too many shooting units, and they're rather expensive for the Wood Elves, so definitely was a little worried about running out of ammo and not being able to deal with, say, Goblin Horde. I also did bring a Forest Dragon, and this was really to provide a source of terror, so that if my opponent did sort of start clumping or start mobbing up on me and perhaps encircling me, I could perhaps bust out through the use of the Terror Bomb on the Forest Dragon. And the Forest Dragon is actually surprisingly resistant to missile attacks. With 50 armor, it's not much, but it does have 20% physical and 25% missile resist, so it's against orc shooting, it's actually really tanky. On the flanks, we do have 2 units of Wild Riders screening away for my mix of shooting units. I do have 2 Deepwood Scouts, 2 Deepwood Scouts, Swifter Shards. These guys do have shorter range, but they still match or outrange the other orcish shooting. And their extra ammunition, or their extra shots per volley, I'm hoping will help kind of scythe down units, especially like Orc Big Guns with their lack of shields. Finally, on the sides, we do have 2 units of Way Watchers, just to provide some anti-armor oomph in case my opponent did bring the Black Orcs. Now, I don't really want to start right off the bat just because there's so much going on immediately. You can see my opponent brought a front line of Night Goblins. Not a bad idea. These guys have stalk. They've got poison, so if they catch me, they could snag my troops and prevent them from escaping. The rest of his infantry mob, they are expendable, so if they die, no big loss. And they've got Silver Shields, so they can just tank through my firestorm of shooting and then just pressure my skirmishers. And they do have decent speed at 35. That means they're almost as quick as Deepwood Scouts, and once my scouts fire a few volleys, they're obviously going to be tired, and they're going to be much slower. On the flanks, my opponent does have some Orc Big Guns. Most likely to deal with any large units like, say, Wild Riders or Treekin or anything like that. Though they don't have armor piercing, you don't really need that against the Wood Elves, so they'll definitely do okay there. You can see a Goblin Big Boss mixed in. Goblin Big Boss, not a great combatant, but he does have Slippery, he does have poison, and once again, he's pretty quick on his feet here on the Spider. He could easily run down my troops, slow them down once again, and make them easy targets for the rest of his troops. Finally, Grimgor Ironhide is actually a decent sort of hero for resisting assassination, because he's a very small target, and he does have good armor, so except for my Way Watchers, I don't really have many ways to shoot him down. He also does have Stand Your Ground, Foe Seeker, and Wah, so definitely ready to buff his troops up. My opponent did bring a Doomdiver Catapult here just to pressure my shooting, and then 3 units of Orc Boar Boys, which is an interesting pick. Personally, I think that it's much better to bring cheap Goblin Calf against the Wood Elves, because your cavalry, unless you're bringing the Broken Tusk mob, you're not going to be able to beat Wild Riders in a melee. And the AP is definitely wasted a bit on the Wood Elves, and Boar Boys have pretty pitiful melee stats. They're pretty slow by any cavalry standard, so in my opinion, it's definitely these guys are probably the iffiest choice here for my opponent. You can see immediately the big guns getting scythed down. One of the big reasons I brought Switch Rivers was actually in case my opponent brought Savage Orcs. These guys do still have magic projectiles, so they'd be very good in that situation. Over here you can see the Orc Big Guns not having the best of times, and I do start teeing off with my Deepwood Scouts, trying to whittle them down. Unfortunately, I do allow these units of Deepwood Scouts to get flanked, because there's already quite a bit of micro going on. I'm already trying to shift some Wild Riders off the flank, and I'm a little late here on the uptake, and the Deepwood Scouts are definitely fleeing a little bit lately, though you can see these Orc Big Guns are having a very bad day. Now immediately I'm flying over my opponent's backline. I figure he doesn't have much of any shooting, and the goal is, of course, to get on top of this Doomdiver Catapult and shut it down for good with my flyers. You can see I do cast a Flock of Doom here, helping whittle down these Night Goblins, really lowering their HP. You can see these Deepwood Scouts, though, do get caught just because I'm not on top of my micro right now. That's a big mistake. You can see I do pull these Wild Riders into my opponent's Orc Boar Boys, trying to screen away for these Deepwood Scouts. But things are definitely not looking good for me. The only success here is that I do catch the Doomdiver Catapult, and it is now routing, and I will start pursuing it with the Spellslinger Beast just to get it off the field. I don't want to have to deal with it at all if I can, because that could be a huge battle changer. Now, unfortunately, though, my opponent is definitely mobbing me. He's kind of trapped a few units here. He's got these deep scouts with swift shooters in the pits. The Wild Riders are trying to protect them, but they're not really able to kind of cut the mustard there. And with Wad from Grimgor going down, this unit is definitely in the pits. In the meantime, these Wild Riders have caught these Orc Boar Boys and just really slaughtering them. Wild Riders are so much better than anything the Orcs can put on the field. But seeing that now the poor archers are in a bit of a pickle here, I'm pulling back with Wild Riders to try to screen this unit of Orc Boar Boys. In the meantime, my Flyers, which did overextend a little bit, are coming back to provide some support. I'm trying to get this dragon into the fray. I do get a nasty little breath attack here. The breath attack on the Wood Elf dragon is not the greatest. You can see it does apply, and unfortunately we do have that annoying thing there, but it does actually apply poison here, noxious gas, which reduces any melee attack and accuracy, and that's worth noting that there's quite a few of the breath attacks in this game actually do that. Anytime I'm trying to kind of kite away, activating just free fire from my archers just to get some damage out and deal with the units that are pressuring me so heavily. And you can see the Orc Boar Boys on top of my troops definitely being a big nuisance, but I'm trying to kind of shut them down here. The Wild Riders are doing a monstrous job here, just mopping them up, even as the rest of my troops are in really bad shape. Unfortunately here, I do not micro these Wild Riders, and they are going to get kind of slaughtered here by big guns. It's really not a good situation for them. In the meantime, though, the Doom Diver is basically off the field. Perhaps I should have pulled back at this point, but I have not, and that's definitely a bit of a mistake. Glady, in the meantime, flying over, trying to get here and support against these Way Watchers against the Orc Boar Boys. Now, the Way Watchers are actually decent melee stats, so if the push comes to shove, they can definitely pull the Orc Boar Boys down into the gutter. You can see one of them does get picked off there by an arrow. In the meantime, these Boar Boys do get shattered, which is really important for me. And the Dragon does manage to kind of stall here, rout some of the troops, some Night Goblins, because of course they have terrible morale, and just kind of buying me some time here. I do surround this Goblin Big Boss. I'm trying to get the Way Watchers clear, and just kind of pressure my opponent and really kind of save what I can. Things are definitely looking rather grim. You can see a Praevan Threma going here on the Orc Boar Boys, and this should allow them to be really kind of like wiped out and eliminated. Another breath attack does go down. You can see eradicating some Orc Boar Boys there. You definitely want to try to position your breath attacks in such a way that you can annihilate units as best you can. You can see that to really cripple them. Where the Wild Riders are getting slaughtered to man to provide the Way Watchers with an opportunity to escape. They're definitely champions here, fighting for the Wood Elf realms. Over here, in the meantime, the Doom Diver catapult is only broken and it's not shattered, and I really don't want it going back, and perhaps definitely overextending at this point. But I do still have this healthy Spellslinger piece over there. It's definitely a bit of a mistake on my part, just letting her overextend like that. The Dragon does dive down here, and of course, it's very susceptible to damage you, but he can cause fear, terror, and as he plows through these troops, they're not really able to stop him, and my opponent's trying to mob the Dragon, but he doesn't really have the ability to shut it down. Fortunately, I do commit the Wild Riders here, big mistake, because they're going to get surrounded and kind of slaughtered here in the pits. And these Way Watchers are way too close for comfort, so I should have pulled them away immediately. Over here, though, Wild Riders making themselves a nuisance. Unfortunately, getting caught by the big guns because I'm just not on top of my micro here. As best as try as I might, I'm just not able to keep all my units in good positions. But now, my opponent is definitely kind of clumped up. He's starting to spread out his troops, and that will really be a boon for me. You can see I'm going to be able to start pulling back my Spellslinger. I'm really going to be able to take advantage of my opponent's loss of his cavalry, loss of his artillery. He now has nothing to pressure my archers, so I'm just going to be able to start kiting him out and slowly but surely picking away at him with the Forest Dragon, with the Glady, and trying to isolate weaklings and stragglers. Over here, the Way Watchers doing some okay work, poking away at the boys. They do, of course, outpace them by a wide margin, even when they're tired. And you can see the boys definitely not having the best time of it. Meantime, the Dragon is coming over. You can see the Goblin Big Boss, despite Slippery going down, is definitely not in the greatest position here. Archery fire coming in from all flanks. And the Depot Scouts here just outpacing the big guns like a bunch of champs. I do start picking away at the big boss. You can see he's trying to run down these deep swift shivers, but I do get the Dragon in there, and of course him being on a large mount means he's very susceptible to the Dragon here, and he is in for a very bad time. He immediately breaks and just not able to do much. And Night Goblins, of course, can't support him very well. He does shatter him almost immediately. You can see I do now net Grimgor, hoping to kind of assassinate him, but I simply don't have my second unit of Way Watchers is fleeing from the field, trying to outrun these Orc Boar Boys. So I'm definitely in a very bad spot here. I'm just not able to pressure Grimgor adequately. So despite doing quite a bit of damage to him, he does manage to uproot himself and escape. So at this point, I'm really forced to deal with the pressing matter of all these Orc Boys pushing at me and try to protect my troops. The Dragon here is buying me time. My opponent is trying to mob the Dragon, which isn't a bad idea. It's got pretty low armor and HP for a Dragon, as we discussed before. So it's pretty susceptible to melee, and so that's definitely not great for me. Oh, in the meantime, over here, Grimgor is popping all his buffs, trying to support his troops, and that's going to make my Forest Dragon very susceptible to damage. But at the same time, I do get a Flock of Doom off. That's going to be doing immense hurt, and you can see these Orc Boys struggling. You can see I do start running out of ammo on my Glady. Most of my troops are rather low on ammo at this point, though obviously they'll be able to pick apart troops. But you can see I'm now starting to isolate my opponent's troops. He's using these Orc Boar Boys to chase me, but I'm going to be able to start isolating with the Spellslinger, with the Glady, and really apply some pressure. You can see a nice terror bomb kind of going down there with the help of the Glady to disrupt, and we are able to extricate ourselves here and to do a pretty good job. Unfortunately, I do leave the Glady in there. She does do one of those crazy animations where she's swooping around with the eagle, which I think is a pretty awesome animation, but it's definitely a little bit of a problem. Definitely raking up kills, raking in the kills though. You can see these Orc boys do actually rout. Now, rather than fighting them, I'm going to set the Way Watchers on them. They still have a volley left into melee just to pursue these guys and try to get them off the field. So definitely kind of desperate here, putting troops into melee, trying to run out these Orc boys with the Spell Slinger, and now trying to focus out these Orc big guns between the 2 units of Deepwood Scouts. So definitely things are looking pretty grim, but things are kind of stabilizing. You can see I do not drop another Flock of Doom here, really helping annihilate these guys. These Orc big guns though are still very healthy. You can see these Orc boys and the Goblins and the Orc boys over here, they're all just taking so much damage, just falling apart, and so definitely things are going rather well in that sense. Over here, Grimgore is very low on HP, well, about less than half now. And my Glady is able to extricate herself. These troops are all routing, and as they rout, my faster infantry is just going to be able to start pressuring them, start pushing them off the field. You can see these Orc boys getting routed off by Way Watchers. Over here, the Spell Slinger chasing off those boys. And over here, the Deepwood Scouts do slug it out with the big guns and beat them down in melee. So definitely pretty impressive performance there as they rout out these big guns. And we can watch as they have there's actually some pretty cool animations for the elves when they're in melee. They do some little crazy rolls and shooting while fighting, but it doesn't look like we're going to get any of those as they do pursue those guys off the field. In the meantime, over here, I do pull my Spell Slinger back, allowing these Orc boys to escape. I simply don't feel like pressuring. I really need help over here. Deal with this mob. Fortunately, my Way Watchers over here did get routed off the field because I let them get pinned against the edge of the board, which was a huge problem. But another Flock of Doom does go down, melting down these Orc boys, melting down these Night Goblins, and my opponent's just not really able to protect all these troops. And of course, Grimgore will take a little bit of damage in there as well. Anytime these Orc boys getting encroached on by the Deepwood Scouts, you can see over here some Deepwood Scouts and Swift Shivers out of ammo, so I'm just hiding them for now. I'm pulling back these Way Watchers as well. Today we're just wiping out troops slowly but surely. Those Orc guns over there getting chased off the field by the courageous scouts, and you can see over here they're slugging it out with the Orc guns. This is definitely pretty crazy. You can see the scouts obviously are not really intended for this sort of fighting, but they're making it work on 10 HP with a tiny amount of model and ammo and all that. They do manage to break and shatter those Orc guns. In the meantime, over here in the pits, you can see that I'm sneaking up on the Orc boys with the Deepwood Scouts, get a volley here, which will actually cause enough damage to their morale to break and shatter them, but it did waste all my ammo. Meantime, over here you can see the Spell Slinger and the Dragon trying to goon off these troops and picking off Night Goblins, and we're so close to the board edge that now they're just going to rout off the field. So this is really what you got to do when you have this flight advantage and your opponent is just so tough. You can see these Orc boys, obviously they're pretty low, the Night Goblins are low and all that, but these Orc big guns are so very healthy, and obviously I think I'd probably take on all of my archers at once. This unit of Night Goblins here is still very healthy, 3,600 HP, nothing to sneeze at. That's definitely not good for me. And of course, Deepwood Scouts aren't the best melee combatants. You can see these guys here sitting at 20 melee attack, 25 melee defense. That's maybe comparable to Goblins. Not even. They're worse than Goblins in melee. So, and there's less of them. So definitely a rough situation. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of collapsing on the Goblins, hitting them from all flanks. And just trying to get rid of them. And you can see with my guys here are diving in. You can see they're firing. They fire off their bows and arrows in close quarters, which is pretty awesome. Where that ammunition is coming from, I don't know. But you can see that they do get isolated here. And I do manage to take out this very big unit of Night Goblins with the Dragon, with the Glady, with all those troops, and they really drag these guys into the muck. Your Way Watchers are staying back. I don't want to use their volleys of ammunition on my last few troops until an opportunity presents itself. You can see these Night Goblins being broken. These Orcs shatter. Most of these troops are just broken, not coming back, and with all the fear I still have, this is a great thing. But of course, Grimgore, one of the big problems here is that Grimgore, of course, is still alive. So my opponent is not taking that leadership loss, and so what I'm doing is kind of trying to find an opportunity here. I do feint with my Spell Slinger, and then I drop down my Glady and my Forest Dragon and immediately drop a Flock of Doom on the tail end of that, and that's going to cause some immense work. Now what I should have done here is pulled out immediately after the charge the moment Grimgore popped all these buffs, because I could have weathered those buffs. So I waited a little bit too long here, but I do get back up into the air, and I'm sort of just going to let Grimgore's Wah and Stand Your Ground expire, as all these guys took some massive damage. Meantime, we do get a nice little pick here on the flank, flanking around him, hitting the Night Goblins, hitting really the weak link here. These guys have such bad morale, they're just going to rout here almost immediately and fall apart. In the meantime, over here, my troops here are pursuing the Night Goblins, who are actually going to manage to rally, but there's just not enough of them at this point. And you can see the archers are going to slaughter them here in the pits. In the meantime, though, on the other end, things definitely not looking too great. You can see the Spellslinger fleeing for her life, the dragon's still floating around, but my opponent's Orc Boys and the Night Goblins are in a bad spot here, and they're fleeing off the field. As you can see, the power bar is still somewhat in my opponent's favor. If you manage to get a good hit in with Grimgor, or a good series of hits in with Grimgor, things could definitely still go south. And of course, the big guns are just very, very powerful. They could beat the Forest Dragon down, and obviously the Glady and Spellslinger as well. Things definitely still very close, and I'm definitely being a bit of a scumbag here, picking off these troops and just trying to really get rid of all these peripheral units and pick them off, drive them off the field as best I can. So what we're going to do is throw things in the fast forward. There's a little bit of, not to say Benny Hill action, but a little bit of skirmishing here. You can see these Orc Boys getting chased off, and we finally do kind of take off, as I assume these guys will not be coming back. And I'm trying to redraw the lines here and get an opportunity to get a proper engagement. I do hit these big guns from all flanks, thinking that if I hit them from all sides, I'll be able to cause a rout. And I make it, once again, I make a huge mistake here. Rather than simply immediately fleeing after the engagement, I stick around as waters go down. You can see the dragon HP is just going to start tanking. You can see 1700 HP right now, but then it's going to start dropping dramatically. You can see down by a huge amount. Grimgor hits it. You can see that 500 HP drop, and it really needs to get out of dodge as quickly as it can. You can see it drops to 500 HP. It starts bowling over some of those orcs, but a really, really rough situation here for the Forest Dragon. I should have pulled back immediately. The moment Grimgor popped those buffs, I should have really gotten out. Now, my Way Watchers do fire one more volley into Grimgor, which beats up the big guns, but it doesn't really hit Grimgor. It doesn't connect with him too well. So things definitely looking a little grim. And you can see there are still some troops from my opponent on the field. You can see these Orc Boys are still around, so I do try to isolate or pick them off here with the dragon, diving in, terror-routing him immediately, and getting that nice little terror-out. And so now it's really just Grimgor and these guys, and you can see all my elves here just ganging up on these big guns. Big guns still have 33 melee defense, though. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a rough situation, and we really... None of the archers are too good here. Only the Way Watchers have decent melee stats, but even they're not quite on par. So what I'm trying to do is kind of position my troops in good spots to hit these guys from all sides, and it does kind of work out. You can see my archers plow in. Some are going to fall apart almost immediately because they're so low on morale and HP, but the dragon does dive in. It's going to provide some terror effect. You can see these big guns immediately terror out, which is huge because the archers do have decent enough melee stats to land a few hits. I'm not able to extricate the dragon. It gets whacked by Grimgor once and then twice, and it's gone. So things are definitely looking better. Grimgor does have good melee stats, but as you can see, he's only got 35 melee defense. So if I can surround him, especially with the Way Watchers, they'll eventually chip away at him despite his high armor. So I do pull out my flyers. I do set my Deepwood Scouts on the Orc Big Guns because I really don't need my Lords on them, and I want my Way Watchers fighting Grimgor because the Way Watchers do have better melee stats. So now Grimgor does pop all of his abilities, popping Stand Your Ground, which will expire pretty quickly, and you can see my Way Watchers here just absolutely man-moding this guy. Well, this is really not where they want to be, but they have to. They have to for the Woodland Realm. And you can see Grimgor obviously not taking too much damage, but now we do dive in. We do immediately tank him by about half his HP, or half his remaining HP, and Grimgor is going to get destroyed, and that is going to be the end of the greatest Greenskin. So, obviously, I played rather poorly in some ways in this match. My opponent had a pretty good build, I think, to counter me. The biggest disadvantage he had was that his cavalry was kind of inadequate. The Orc Boar Boys are really pretty bad against Wood Elves. If I was going to recommend any cavalry, I'd say either Squig Hoppers or Wolf Riders or Goblin Spider Riders. All of those are pretty good at tanking shots from archers. They're cheaper, they're faster, so they're harder for the Wild Riders to catch up with. And while they won't trade well with Wild Riders, the point is that you kind of swarm your opponent and hit him from all sides and get on top of him, slow him down, make it easier for your infantry to catch up and finish it. The Wild Riders this way were able to at least shut down the cavalry interference, and once the cavalry was gone, I was able to pick my opponent's troops apart. For the rest of the army, I do think it was decent. Sometimes it's good to bring some archers, but obviously with this sort of mob, my opponent was really able to kind of plow through my shooting and expend my ammo pretty effectively. One of the big problems was that when he did blob, I hit him pretty hard with the Spellslinger Beast and her AoEs. You can see the Way Watchers doing some champion work. The archers actually did some okay work, and of course the dragon did pretty well. You can see my opponent's army definitely took some nasty losses and was reduced significantly. Obviously, I think Fear and Terror are critical if you're doing this sort of build. Wild Riders do have Fear, which is great against goblins, and of course the dragon gives you that Terror Bomb that if you need to clear out an area quickly, if you need to open a path for your retreating troops, the dragon can dive in, Terror Bomb some orcs, and buy you the time you need. Otherwise, I definitely think this was definitely a tough match, definitely a close game, and definitely kind of came down to some of my bad micro as well. Because in the early game, I did allow some troops to get overextended. I did allow got my Wild Riders killed for no reason, just because there was a lot of micro, and I also let the Spellslinger of Beasts kind of wander too far, chasing those Goblin artillerymen. When realistically, I could have pulled her back, and if they, in the odd chance they did come back, I could have, despite being broken, I could have then set her on them once more. Nonetheless, great game to my opponent here, Mr. Pete. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, criticism, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.